Afternoon, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, hey Patrick, really good, thanks.
I saw you on stage at UC EXPO briefly while I was making my way around various interviews, and it was absolutely packed. I think that was on the second day. So was that a Thursday?
Yeah. So I was there both days. It was really good, but first day was definitely busier, I think, for the whole show. But there was still a decent turnout on the second day as well. It was a real whirlwind of a show.
Yeah, it was really, really busy all round. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on the Thursday as I was in between an interview. I walked past and I thought, oh, that particular seminar is very busy. And then I
And then you
realised
were like, "It's Tom, don't worry about it."
and I was like, it's Tom on stage. I know all this. I don't need to do it to him. So yeah, but it was a good show, wasn't it?
Yeah, I heard you guys had a good turnout too.
Yeah, it was really busy. So we did like a Cisco, Microsoft, very high level overview comparison of their communication and collaboration platforms, and we've actually turned it into there's a sort of smart guide that I think you helped Rob, who's the publisher of UC Today, out with. So that's available on the website if anyone wants to have a look at sort of an overview of what's going on with the two.
Yeah, that sort of set the theme of the show, didn't it? It was definitely like a Cisco keynote, Microsoft keynote, where there was sort of the big battle, but then there was loads and loads of UCAS, which I thought was really interesting, like the Ring Centrals and the Fuse and 8x8, all those kind of people all had big stands as well.
Yeah, no, it was. There's a few interesting trends going on in terms of video. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes, let's not get into
that now. So Microsoft wise, as you say, it was big at UC Expo. That you were mentioning when we recorded the pod last time, there was an event coming up from Microsoft. Microsoft Build, is that their developer?
Yeah, that's their developer conference. So Ignite is their kind of IT pro businessy type thing, and Build is their proper hardcore developer conference. So even though you think about Teams as an application, obviously Microsoft Teams is a development platform as well. That's a big part of the story. So there were one or two things, just looking through my blog, that got announced during the Build conference. Let's have a look. So the big one for me, which was it's not really a big deal in the grand scheme, but message actions are the ability to essentially like click on the three dots on any message and take an action specifically on that message.
Okay.
So I've been waiting for this for ages because I live in Teams. So you'll be able to click and create a task, or click and raise an issue, or click and do whatever. Send this message to Trello, like directly from the message, which is super handy, I think.
Okay, so is that one of the things they are developing then?
Yeah. So it's in preview now, I think, early preview for some tenants. But it's interesting that 2 years in, that's a new addition to take an action directly on the message. It's definitely going to be a really nice touch for usability.
Oh, cool. Anything else from Build?
Yeah, lots of, again, sort of dev specific stuff, but improvements in the Teams API, so you can do some further automation of reading messages or grabbing certain content. Much improved application management. So if you're creating an application for Teams, kind of a way to put that in a store and do low code, no code kind of template stuff. So very developer focused, but if you're into development, it's worth checking out that blog and seeing what you can now do to bring your apps directly into the Teams experience.
Yeah, absolutely. For the techies out there, that sounds like an interesting one. And I mean, it seems like it wasn't that long ago we recorded, but there's been some quite big pieces of news in terms of Teams development.
Yeah. So in the we last recorded, we talked about Citrix VDI or any VDI for that matter having a first-party client experience. So last month, Microsoft released a version of Teams that works better on VDIs, that's virtual desktops. So they're big in legal, big in FSI, big in kind of contact center, where the computer on the desk is like a fairly dumb terminal, and the data, the real processing, is done in the data center or in the cloud. And hot off the heels of that, Citrix announced at their Synergy conference, which happened this week as we're recording, that they have developed a plugin essentially that will allow audio, video, and desktop sharing to work in those thin client environments. So that's a really big deal for those that want UC, but also want Citrix VDI and to have their data all secure in the data center and have a thin client on the desk.
Yeah, and I think that's something we mentioned previously. One of the drawbacks potentially with VDI has always been the difficulty of doing video and sort of high-res stuff on the local machine, because obviously where does that graphical resource come from? But Citrix have obviously sorted it, and that's pretty big news, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, really big news. I mean, they mentioned in their blog post that they've got 700,000 active Skype for Business people using that product on Skype for Business. So obviously there's a huge demand for users for that specific use case to have VDI and UC, and Citrix are the first of the big VDI vendors to come to market with a solution. So really good for them and their customers, and kind of the joint Microsoft Cisco Citrix customers to have a story around UC on VDI.
Yeah, and as you said, particularly big in big verticals, very big in public sector as well. So I know a
Yep.
lot of them will be looking at Teams now.
Yeah, the blog really blew up. So definitely there's a lot of interest in this area.
Excellent. There was some more news about it in terms of routing a PSTN as well.
Yeah, so this has been a one that for telephony people has been a long wait. So you can have auto attendance and call queues in Microsoft Teams. So that is when you're ringing into a business and it says, "Hi, welcome to Modality Systems. Please press 1 for sales, 2 for accounts." You've been able to do that for a long time, but the only way you could put your phone number on that was either to take a number directly from Microsoft, so a net new number,
Yeah.
or to port your number into Microsoft. Both were options. We've done both with customers, so they worked. But what customers often want to do is route one of their numbers directly to those services without having to port it and leave ownership of that number and give the ownership to Microsoft. So as of now, you can take a number in your range from BT, Level 3, AT&T, whoever is your favorite carrier, route that number to those cloud services and have those cloud services answer and be an auto attendant or be a call queue. Just a really nice touch for those that are bringing their own PSTN to have those options without porting numbers now.
And I suppose logistically, that's a pretty big concern for customers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pain to port numbers. Like, it's a necessary evil. If you're porting all your numbers to Microsoft anyway, like you were using their calling plans, then it's fine. But when you're using direct routing to bring your user phone numbers from your own carrier, picking a number mid-range and porting that into Microsoft can be a real pain. This is a much better experience. And more often than not, if people are using their own carrier, they want to keep all of that service in one place. So now they don't have to just port their service numbers in or remap numbers or anything. Like, BT is our carrier, all the numbers coming out of BT, and some of them are user numbers and some of them are call queues and auto attendance now.
And I suppose developments like that are just another example of Microsoft strengthening that cloud calling capability.
Yeah, definitely. It's every month it feels like with the podcast, it's just like another little piece of the puzzle. Like, we've unblocked a few more customers that need this scenario, that scenario. So it's definitely maturing up the telephony capability in Teams.
Yeah, and while we're on that, just before we were recording this, I was moaning to you that I was having problems with my iPhone, unrelated to anything Microsoft. But one of the things that both you and I use is the Outlook app for both, I think, iOS and Android, and that can now directly schedule Teams meetings.
Yeah, this is like, again, a relatively little piece to talk about, but a big piece for day-to-day usability. So in the Microsoft April financial results, they talked about 100 million active iOS and Android Outlook app users. So that in itself is pretty interesting. That means that they persuaded that many people to drop the native mail app in Android or in iOS for the Microsoft Mail app. That doesn't necessarily mean all of those are Office 365 users. You can use that Outlook app against Gmail or against any other email system. But if you had to guess, like, the vast majority of those users are probably Office 365 users. So you can schedule meetings in there, but now you can click one button and have it automatically add the Teams dial in and join link details. So just making that flow much, much easier to schedule the Teams meeting.
Yeah, and that's something I've come across in the past and thought, why can't I do this? I mean, at the moment, I'm not going to be doing anything from my iPhone as it appears to have died, but that is going to be useful when eventually it works again.
Yeah, when you go to the Apple Store and get your iPhone fixed, you'll be able to schedule meetings really easily.
Yeah, hopefully that will happen, maybe without me having to go to the store. In terms of the one sort of final bit of news, but this is multi-part. It's pretty big, isn't it, in terms of the Teams development roadmap?
Yeah, so Microsoft dropped a whole bunch of things onto the roadmap in the last couple of weeks. There's 6 that I thought we should run through that were pretty interesting. Number 1 is music on hold. So this is interesting because, like, it's a fairly standard telephony feature in traditional PBX world, but we're just getting it in Microsoft Teams. So the kind of interesting thing there is when you're looking at Teams for telephony, don't pre-assume anything you have in your traditional IPT or even in your Skype for Business is necessarily in the box in Teams, but nice to see that this is hitting for Teams users. There was sharing system audio into Microsoft Teams. So this is interesting. This is a direct kind of competitor scenario. So Zoom does this very well today. If you're playing a YouTube video into a meeting, obviously, like a user expects that audio to magically appear in the meeting. If you're a techie, you understand that the audio is coming out of the PC speaker. It's not going into the meeting. But what Zoom do is they add a driver into the system to pretend they're a sound card, grab that audio and push it into the meeting. And Microsoft, it sounds like, are going to do the same type of thing. So they'll be able to share the system audio, the YouTube video you're playing into the meeting, and pipe the audio from any application, but YouTube as an example, back into the meeting, so people can share video and content with audio.
Oh, that'll be pretty useful for us, actually, because internally we do that a lot, because obviously we do a lot of video, and especially on YouTube, so that will be very useful.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is when it works, it'll just work the way people would think it would work who are non-technical. They're like, well, I'm playing now, you should be able to hear what I'm doing. That's how it'll work.
Excellent. There was also, is that an extension in terms of adding up to 100 people to a group chat?
Yeah. So previously it was 25, then I think it was 50, now it's 100. So it's interesting because this is a group chat as opposed to a team. So this is just a bunch of people talking together around ad hoc as opposed to having a formal team. But clearly there's demand from some customers to bring those groups into larger and larger sizes. And I think this is a bit of the kind of WhatsApp Kaizala mentality coming over to Teams. Like, for whatever reason, I want a big group chat, I want to do it in Teams. Now you've got the 100 users in that group chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose for bigger organizations, it is more and more applicable.
Yeah, you may well have a department chat, like 100 people, and you want to chat in there. Like to me, mentally, it feels like that should be a team, because you've got threaded conversations and tabs and individual channels. Like when I got to whenever you get to 100, I would say that having channels and threads and everything would be better. But clearly, some people want it, so there it is.
Absolutely. What else was there in the development roadmap?
There's a single toolbar for meeting controls and calling, so that I've got that in test at the moment, and it's a relatively small change again aesthetically, but functionally it's quite a big thing. So at the moment in Microsoft Teams, if you're in a meeting, the chat is on the top right, the roster, like the kind of buddy list, is on the top right, but your mute and unmute and hang up are in the middle of the screen. All those controls are coming together to be in the middle of the screen. So there's one control bar that has your mute and unmute, your roster, your chat, your recording notification. So just simplifying the UI basically.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I look forward to that as well, because sometimes even a relatively au fait Teams user, I think, where's the, suddenly I need to send a message and I can't find the chat, but if that's in the middle, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Teams can have a lot of buttons at times, so it's nice to see Microsoft kind of taking the user experience seriously and trying to rationalize it.
Anything else from the roadmap?
Yeah, two more things. So managing the discovery of private teams. This is a bit of a mouthful. In Microsoft Teams, you can have public teams, which means anybody in the organization can join them without any bar to getting in or out. So like something that's not sort of super kind of secret, like, it's the sports team, like people can come and go. There's no data security around that. Or you can have private teams, which means that the owners of the team control who becomes a member. And we've gone through different phases, though, private teams being discoverable, so they came up in search but they were still private, and completely hidden, so they were private and you couldn't discover them unless someone sent you a join link. Now what Microsoft have done is made that a toggle, so you can choose if it's a private and hidden team or a private and searchable team. So depending on your use case, you can pick either option basically.
Okay, right. And what's the final one?
Final one is a telephony feature again, and it's actually, since writing this blog post, it's now GA, so you can go and turn it on right now. And it's busy on busy. So I'm going to quiz your UC, Patrick. Do you know what busy on busy is?
Oh, I'm going to have to pass, Tom.
So it's a very niche one, so I'm not surprised. It places like, so notably Germany, this is a thing. It means that when you're dialing somebody who's already in a call, you will get a busy tone and or their voicemail rather than them getting a toast saying somebody else is calling. So like in UC in general, across all the products, one of the real benefits is like I can be on the phone to somebody, but if my boss calls me, I get a little toast and I'm like, oh, Nick's calling. I should probably choose to prioritize my boss. I'm going to get out of here and answer him. In most places, that's the culture. Like the person on the call can make a decision. In Germany and other places, it's very different in that, like, well, if I'm engaged with you, I'm engaged, right? So it doesn't matter who rings me. It doesn't matter if my boss rings me. I chose to be engaged with you. They should get voicemail and I'll pick up with them when they want to. Arguably the more polite way to think about it. So now you can flick a switch, and rather than you getting a toast while you're in call, which you find distracting or impolite, now the next person ringing will just hit your voicemail basically, and you'll get back to them when you're finished.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, so will there be configurations or options on that, do you think, to come? Because at the moment you can, if you appear as do not disturb, certain people can, but the example I'm very poorly trying to make is maybe there might be a couple of people that I wouldn't mind interrupting a call, but then the rest of them I'd quite happy have busy on busy.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is specifically for kind of a telephony scenario. So when you're making a PSTN call. So if you're in a meeting and you're presenting, you shouldn't get toast because you'll be in presenting mode. But you can control that relationship as well. So you can put yourself in busy, and you can have kind of, let me have a look to see what the setting is. It's live demo. You can have a setting where you can say these people are important to me and they can bypass my
Got you.
So it's called priority access. So under settings and privacy, it says do not disturb. You can still receive messages from these people who have priority access to you, and you can choose those people. So you can choose a few people that can bypass. So if you're in a D&D scenario, your boss can still get to you.
Okay, right. Oh, well, I think I'll keep it as it is, actually. I don't want anyone to be able to...
No.
While we're in the middle of a pod recording. Well, I think that pretty much sums up the news, but I know my calendar actually looks blissfully quiet over the next few weeks, but you're away at the start of June for Comms vNext, which you were telling us about last month.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. So not long now, we're really on the countdown for it. So community-driven conference in the US, lots of really good Microsoft speakers, but also lots of good community speakers. So it's kind of a bit of a demarketing conference for people who are genuinely on the ground doing Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business. Lots of speakers that I know from different places around the world, and lots of real-world knowledge going to be shared there. So yeah, pretty excited for that one.
And when that's 5th and 6th of June.
5th and 6th of June, yes. There's still tickets. There's still a few tickets open, I think, for day admission. All the kind of stay there packages have gone now, I think. But if you're in or around or near Denver, there's still tickets to come. And I would heartily recommend this one. If you can get to one conference, I would pick this kind of thing over a more like generalist Ignite or UC show. If you're in this particular space, you really want to get into Teams and Skype, this is it, definitely.
Oh, cool. Well, we'll put the link up for that so people can see it if anyone is in the area. But I'm sure you'll have loads of stuff on your blog coming out of it anyway.
Yeah, there's quite a few sponsors there actually. So I think we're going to do some recording with some of the sponsors to catch the latest news from those guys as well.
Excellent. Well, I very much look forward to that. Well, Tom, as always, thank you so much for running me through the news, and we'll catch up again next month.
Yep. Cheers, Patrick. We'll see what's coming next month, and see you then if not before.
Cheers, Tom.
Cheers. Thanks.